seeing some numbers.
The Benjamin Dixon Show is only possible with listener support. Go to www.thebenjamindixonshow.com to register for our blog and join the Progressive Army. And now, ladies and gentlemen,
You're now about to witness the truth.
it's the Benjamin Dixon Show.
Welcome, ladies and gentlemen, to the Benjamin Dixon Show. I am your host, Benjamin Dixon. It is Wednesday, May 3rd, 2017. Thanks so much for joining us. We are broadcasting early tonight on Wednesday night, so we have a funky schedule, but we're gonna roll with it. So Wednesday nights we start at 8 p.m. Every other night we start at 9 p.m. Tomorrow night at 9 p.m. we're actually doing the Intercept live broadcast, and we will be interviewing Professor Eddie Glaude as well as talking about all the politics of the day. So make sure that you're here for that on tomorrow night at 9 o'clock. p.m. Eastern Standard Time. Special thanks to all of our patrons, everyone who makes this show possible, without whom we really can't do this. And so we always want to thank you at the top of the show. Let's jump into a couple stories. Actually, I'm joined today in studio by, I don't know, I guess your producer slash guest host slash Progressive Army Pad 1. Not even a Pad 1. You've been rolling with the Progressive Army for a while, right?
Yeah, I've been rolling for a while. Since at least since Philly.
Go ahead and put a camera too so we can see you. Yeah, there we go. This is Alexander the Mad. Well, you want to go by your full name here?
Yeah, you can call me John.
Okay, John, you have to get closer to your microphone though.
All right. Yeah, you can call me.
The microphone is gonna cover up your face, so you just I know you want everyone to see your magnificent beard, but you're gonna have to. Yeah, but you're gonna have to bring the mic. If you're gonna be in the conversation, you got to bring the microphone closer.
How about this?
That's better.
All right.
So this is an earlier time, and later on in the show, I would say in about 20 minutes, we'll be speaking with Raquel Bloss of the Progressive Independent Party. We'll be discussing some of the campaigns that she and the PIP has coming up. So we want you to stay tuned for that as well. Let's jump right into a couple of stories that's happening right now. The first thing that came across my radar is something that we talked about a few months ago. We talked about in February. The Trump administration floated this religious liberty executive order. And at the time, it was quickly tucked away, and it was credited to Ivanka Trump and Jared Kushner because they said that this is not good. This is not what we should do, Dad, to President Trump. We should not discriminate, or we should not make an executive order that gives private businesses the right to discriminate based on religious preferences. Well, it disappeared in February, and according to Politico, President Trump is inviting conservative leaders back to the White House on Thursday. They expect that on Thursday he's going to sign this same executive order that we talked about in February. So it went under the radar for 2 or 3 months, and now they're back to it. So this is something that Mike Pence has been pushing for. To give you a little bit background on what this executive order is supposed to do, the executive order is going to grant private businesses as well as individuals. It's a broad stroke. It gives people the ability to refuse services to people who are leading lifestyles that they religiously disagree with. In other words, this opens the door for certain medical practices to turn down service to the LGBTQ community. Today, the hashtag that's trending on Twitter is right to discriminate. And that's essentially what this piece of, or not legislation, but executive order is going to give everyone the ability to do. And again, so this is something that that Mike Pence is behind this 100%. He's not only behind it in terms of supporting it, he's also behind the push to get it implemented. And here we are, John. Here we are. I mean, this really elevates. This raises the ante, because this is I don't want to say beyond the pale, because Trump is doing so much. What's your take on this?
I really can't wrap my mind around it. I mean, how is it that when we have issues like this, where it's not even an issue anymore. There's just a small subsect of the country that feels so strongly about this and is pushing the Trump administration on this, that we're still fighting this. And it blows my mind that we are still fighting.
It's a small group, but it's a very vocal group, right?
Yes, it is.
It's a very vocal group, very and the irony, I brought this up so many times, and I'm sure other commentators have brought this up, but these are the same people who fear Sharia law.
Yes.
And this is Christian Sharia law. This is giving you the right to, based on our legal system, to treat someone else, discriminate against them based on your religion. Like this is theocracy creeping into the White House. Now, chances are this won't stand up to any type of judicial review. This will probably collapse underneath the Constitution, clearly, but it doesn't stop them from trying.
Right. And I just was reading something today about a funeral home refusing service to an elderly gay couple, and one of them had died. And the next nearest funeral home that would actually serve their needs was 90 miles away. And
Wow.
I was just blown away. I was like, how is this still happening? And I know that, like, we live in the liberal Northeast, but at the same time, I travel for my job all over the country and all over the world. And I really didn't meet too many people who cared so vehemently about this issue as to make it like this. Most of the people that I interacted with on both sides of the spectrum were, to each their own. Let them have whatever.
And that's asking too much, right? It's entirely asking too much to live and let live. It's asking too much for you to see. Here's the difference. So I'm religious, for the most. Yeah, I think I'm still religious, even though I've been chased out of a couple churches, but that's neither here nor there.
I'm not.
I'm religious, but I am not interested remotely in making or forcing someone to live according to my code. I don't want anyone to have to wait. If this is not only constitutional, but it's also religious, right? It's also based on our faith. Like, even this is what Mike Pence is trying to do here, and what Donald Trump is going to help him to do is both unconstitutional, but it's antithetical to their own religion, right? Because you can't force anyone to live a certain way and expect that to be, pious or acceptable, right? Everything that you do in Christianity has to be voluntary. And if you're not volunteering to live this way, it doesn't work anyway, right? It's like, it doesn't fit into the framework of Christianity, nor does it fit into the framework of the Constitution to force someone to live according to your religious standards. But this is the same thing they do. They never stop trying to do this. Never. And I mean, thankfully, I'm almost certain that this would 100% be overturned, just like all of his Muslim bans, all of his attempts at Muslim bans. So, maybe this is just another opportunity for Donald Trump to realize that he cannot rule by edict. All right, so let's shift gears. Let's talk about something that came across. I was surprised to see that. I don't know if I was so surprised, but Barack Obama announced today that he's going to donate $2 million for a summer's job program in Chicago. And this is a quote for him. He's saying, one of the things that we'll be starting this year is Michelle and I are personally going to donate. This is according to The Hill. Michelle and I are going to donate $2 million to our summer jobs program here in the community. It's so that right away young people can get to work and we can start providing opportunities to all of them. So yeah, pretty cool. Good on you. If you're upset about the $400,000, does it make you feel better that he would take that $400,000 and give it to summer programs?
No, not at all. And my cynical brain immediately went to, well, this is a nice tax write-off for the $65 million book deal that he got. And that's the only thing that I kept thinking. And I know that that's horrible to think, because obviously people are going to be helped by this money, regardless of whether or not it was a cynical ploy or not. People are going to be helped by this money.
But can it not be? And that's why I keep you around, John. I keep you around to be cynical and evil.
But here's the thing. You know how he could have made up for taking $400,000? Prosecuting a banker. That's the only thing, and that's in the past tense.
But if it's like for 40 minutes he's robbing, he's giving a 40-minute speech, he's taking $400,000 and he's bundling it up and he's sending it over to it's like Robin Hood in a certain extent.
Sure, but how many more $400,000 speeches is he going to give over the course of his ex-presidency?
Yeah, had to take a while before he gets up to, how many, is that 5 speeches he has to give to make up that $2 million?
But then is he going to continue to give every dollar that he makes from these speeches? Is he going to?
He might as well give it, because if he doesn't give it, it's going to go to the government. So, it's a win-win. That's the whole purpose of the tax write-offs. That's why I don't view this cynically, because, one, I mean, you're either going to give it to the government or you're going to do something good with it and give it to some type of philanthropic endeavor. You could be like Donald Trump, right? And all of his philanthropic efforts actually just come back to him, right? But this is money that this is money that you could throw Hillary in there, but this is money that he's funneling directly, and we have to see how it plays out. We have to see how it's implemented. But this is money going straight to inner city kids and youth program.
Absolutely, and that's probably the part that I think is the best about this. And you know what? If he continues to give Wall Street speeches and every single dime that he makes from those Wall Street speeches goes to inner city youth programs or other charities in need, then you can't really fault him for it. The problem is that every ex-president we've seen since Carter, on the other hand, has been enriching themselves off of these speaking fees and speaking tours and everything else. So the cynical person in me automatically thinks that this is just an aberration for a continued behavior.
What behavior is that?
Cashing in on presidency.
I mean, let's have this conversation.
All right.
Shit, you're here. Why not? Let's just have this out. What else is he supposed to do at this point? I mean, everybody wants to hear from him, right? This is the fee that the same speaking agency that Hillary Clinton works for. This is what they've obtained for him. If he drops it down to like 10 grand, I think everybody will be like, oh, that's super cheap. Let's all get Barack Obama. So you know what I mean? It's you have to raise the supply and demand, right?
Well, he can decide where he goes. He can decide.
You know, he totally can decide where he goes, but it's also kind of cost prohibitive. There's only going to be so many people who can afford him.
Right, but you're saying if he drops it down to 10 grand, then he can decide where he goes. I think my biggest problem with this is that the first place he goes to give a speech is Cantor Fitzgerald.
Well, it's actually his second speech, and by the time it actually comes around, I think it'll be his third speech.
Okay, well, still, and granted, Cantor Fitzgerald is probably a special case on Wall Street given how many they lost on 9/11 and what they've done since then. But you've also heard about them suing the airlines and pocketing the money. You've also heard about them receiving lenient settlements from the DOJ. You've also heard about them.
Move a little closer.
You've also heard about them, business practices being slightly shady. So I don't want to give Cantor Fitzgerald a free pass by any means.
But, no.
They're not Goldman Sachs.
Yeah. Okay. That's the most reasonable I've heard you in all of our conversations, right? So it's not Goldman Sachs, and I don't even have to look at this through the lens of Cantor Fitzgerald, right? Let's just take them out, right? I'm talking about your statement that this is just another move to cash in on the presidency,
yes.
And let's put it like this: once I get, let's say 200,000 followers on Twitter, right, and so many X amount of people watching the show, I mean, I can cash in on it. I can go speak and go around the country and do what I mean, what are people supposed to do? They're supposed to work.
You're not crafting policy, and you didn't have your DOJ go especially lenient on what was obviously fraud on numerous institutions that you were set to govern. There's a difference between you cashing in, a difference between me cashing in, and a difference between a president cashing in, especially a president who faced so many problems. And as we've talked about, I mean, bringing in Larry Summers and Tim Geithner into the administration, when that's like asking the crooks to fix the place after they brought it. So, you have to look at everything in context. And by saying that, everyone has the opportunity to cash in equally, and everyone should have that opportunity equally.
I'm not necessarily saying. Well, I didn't say that, but I don't think I disagree with that either. So finish your thoughts. So
okay, so
you can impute that to me. Go
saying
ahead.
that everyone should have the ability to cash in equally overlooks what government is supposed to do and what someone is supposed to do in government. I mean, we have laws in place to prevent them from cashing in while they are in office. What about, and one of the things he was talking about was closing the revolving door when he was running. And that didn't happen. And so
it never happens. I mean, Donald Trump said the same thing, and now it never happens. Here's I think the difference between you and I is that you said there's a thing that the government is supposed to do. I think the government has kind of taken a life of its own and decided this is what we want to do, and this is what they're doing. Barack Obama was a fantastic caretaker of the system that helped him get into office.
Yes.
Right. He was taking money from Wall Street all along.
Well, that's where we agree. Is we agree
Right.
this is not an aberration from who he is.
Right. This is not aberration from who he is. He did a great job recovering the economy for Wall Street. Right. He did a great job in terms of shoring up the neoliberal institutions that he clearly believes in, because he you know, despite what he said on the campaign trail, he firmly believes in Wall Street because he took money from them and he didn't prosecute a single one of them. I mean,
He raised more money from them than anyone had previously.
Right. So, I mean, the best thing that could come out of this would be for him to give some money to the hood, to the streets. Like I mean, I don't see how that could be in the framework of everything we know about Barack Obama. Him giving money to $2 million is like, it's like, why have any cynical view of that whatsoever?
Because it's a matter of, I think that it's being used right now, especially maybe by his publicist, maybe by whoever, to excuse the behavior. And I think that the behavior itself is problematic, outside of whichever president does it. So it's not a matter of Obama. It's not a matter of any president before him doing it. I mean, the behavior itself is problematic. So you can't say like, oh, okay, this is exactly
So wait, actually, let's drill down real quick. So, because I want to make sure that I know what you're not saying. I want to make sure the audience knows what you're not saying. You're not saying it's problematic that he's receiving $400,000 for a speech. It's problematic that he's receiving $400,000 for a speech from a Wall Street firm.
From a speech of someone he was regulating and who his Department of Justice could be accused of being lenient upon.
Okay, right. I want to make sure we're clear there. All right, so let's
like
say
if he got $400,000 from Boys and Girl Scouts of America, I really wouldn't have a problem with it.
I would have a problem with that.
Okay.
I would have a problem with that, because why the hell are you taking money from an organization that probably needs that $400,000? Like the banks, they're so awash with money.
So let me get this straight. You're okay because the banks have tons of money.
I mean,
so
it's
you're
like,
looking at this as a tax after the system.
Take their money and give it away.
Okay, so you're looking at this as a Robin Hood tax. When
You know
in reality,
what
we
I'd be
should be
pissed.
taxing
You know
them
who
more.
the speech that made me the most upset about Hillary Clinton was when she took it from a public school. Like when she gave a speech at a university, a public university.
Oh, I thought you were going to go into the summer camp. So
Yeah, no, like you're taking money from, like, you know how much it costs for people to go to school? It's so, I mean, do not take money from institutions that are hand to mouth. Even if they're not hand to mouth, the people who are affiliated and working for it are hand to mouth.
Yeah.
To me, I'd have a problem if Barack Obama, I would. If he goes to the Boys and Girls Club of America and takes $400,000 from them, I'd be as mad as you are about him taking money from Wall Street.
Oh, see, I couldn't compare it. I'd say Wall Street by far and away is worse.
Well, I mean, you know what? I mean, here for me, it doesn't matter. It doesn't matter in the sense that whether he took this money, he was going to regulate this way anyway. I think that's the part that's missing in the conversation, is that he was an institutionalist all along.
Yes.
And he was going to not prosecute hardly anybody.
Correct. I
He
mean,
was going to. These are the things that he was going to do anyway. So to me,
was
it's
gonna
like
let Citigroup decide who his cabinet was,
This is
no matter
his
what.
system. This is his world, right?
Yeah.
This is where he is. This is what he believes in. So to me, it's like, in that world, if I'm judging him based, it's like me coming. It's like you coming to me and you know, you're not religious, are you?
Not at all. No,
Okay.
I'm an atheist.
You're an atheist. So it's like you being an atheist coming and judging me based on Christianity and making all these kind of like, oh, Ben, you're not a good Christian, da 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 da. I'm like, wait a minute, you're not even in this. You're not even over here with me. So like he's a capitalist. He's a neoliberal. He believes in the system. That's his religion. Let him have his religion. Take that money, give it to the streets. That's what I'm saying. But do not take it from the Boys and Girls Club of America, because then we have some serious problem.
We got
All
a
right,
comment.
Chi Trend Chase said, we can't call Orange Buffoon out on filling cabinet with Wall Street, yet say when our guys do it is okay. I don't think it did, but nobody did that though.
No. We think it's bad all the way around.
Yeah, no, we told, like, you know, this is how I came to terms with who Obama was the fact that he filled his cabinet with
Yeah.
Wall Street.
Yeah. And we said that right from the beginning. This
Yeah.
is why taking the speeches is not an aberration in behavior for Obama, because
It's just part and parcel of who he is.
Right.
I like it. I like the fact that he's going to donate to $2 million. I think he should donate more.
I think
because
he should donate $65 million.
Yeah, $65 million. You think you're talking about what, the 40%? Well, if Donald Trump's tax plan goes through,
15%, right?
it well, not 15%. I think it drops to 35% for personal. But so even 35% of 60 million is a lot more than 2 million. I don't have the math on top of me, but he should give it all away. Give it all away. Take a 40-minute speech. I would see it as a Robin Hood tax. Just tax the hell out of them and take it and give it to the streets. But do not take it from poor organizations that are not, because they're not poor technically.
No.
But you know what I mean. Don't take it out of the hands and mouth of programs that could go to kids. Anyway, we could talk about this for another 2 or 3 hours. Let's oh my goodness, and I'm super late. Let's bring up this is what happens when you talk about Barack Obama and neoliberalism.
This is what happens every time we talk.
This is true. This is true. So we're going to shut up for a second here, and we're going to get Araquel Bloss on the line so that we could talk to her about a couple of campaigns that are coming up. The Progressive Independent Party. I want to talk to her about so many of the things that she's working on over there with that organization. And we were supposed to start our conversation with her at 8:20. So new rule. We will not, John and I will not get into one of our discussions before we have our guest on. If she bring her up.
I got her.
Okay, awesome. We have her on the line. Raquel Bloss, thank you so much for joining us. How are you today?
Hi, Benjamin. I'm very well, thank you.
Awesome.
Thank you for having me on.
Oh, it's my pleasure. It's my pleasure. So I want to tell everyone who's watching me probably knows about your work already. You're the founder and executive director of PIP, the Progressive Independent Party, and you are making moves right now to, I guess the best way to say it is to unify the left, and not so much this broad unite blue, not the Democrats, but to unite the leftists in America. And you also have a campaign, anti-war campaign that's going on. Tell me about these two different campaigns that you have going on.
Well, I'm glad you had me on because I'm very excited to let progressives and let the left know that we are working diligently and we're having success, and we are uniting the left in many, many ways. And we've learned through being a major part of Occupy Inauguration that when we do actions together, when we find our common causes and our shared values, coming together becomes very, very easy. When President Trump authorized the, illegal, well, let's say the internationally illegal missile strikes against Syria, we were able to unite people immediately for flash activism, and many organizations came together, and we had pop-up activism and protests coast to coast within 24 hours.
Wow.
So taking that concept, PIP kind of took the way, asking all these organizations to come together, ask their followers to create pop-up activism and be ready to create actions coast to coast anti-war. And we have a very large coalition. So it's just another example of what the left can do when we just focus on uniting with the causes we all feel very strongly about. So we're excited about that. We're excited to be a part of that. And that's a little bit of what PIP is about. We are about uniting, not stepping on toes, but joining hands. And I can go on, but we are, I mean, we have done a lot in the last year, and we're really proud. We're proud to be partnered very tightly with Progressive Army and Lift Up Voices, Progressive Voices through independent media. We also have a campaign right now, hashtag MSM Detox, asking everyone to cut cable cords and watch the independent progressive news that we elevate.
Absolutely. And you do great work. I actually want to speak about it personally. You have created a platform that amplifies at a minimum, right? What you did at Occupy Inauguration was so impressive, and how quickly all those things came together. And I think it's tied to how, I hate to use this word, but efficacious your social media presence is on Facebook. But anytime you share or lift one of our voices, it just spreads with such quickness that it's amazing. So we want to thank you from the Progressive Army, because you've been so intricate in helping us with getting our voices out every show, from mine to the Way with Anoa, but then also with the movement that you have going on. We the People Say No War. Tell us a little bit about that campaign, and what are some of your plans and goals with that?
Well, we are creating, like you said, our social media presence is very important. And every time we do an action, or when we elevate voices that are important to us, like Progressive Army, I mean, I'm so proud that you said that, not because of ego, but because you guys have so many, it gives me the goosebumps, exceptional bright voices that need elevating. So we're
Wow.
just proud to have the platform to do that. And that's what we do. We build platform and then we give it away. I mean, we have a lot of people that need lifted in this country. We have a lot of voices not heard, and that's part of our job. And that builds trust between organizations. So then when we ask them, please join us in this campaign, this no war, absolutely no more war campaign, people, they're ready. They're ready to work with us, because we're not partners. I don't want to be per se a leader. I want to be a spokesperson for my organization, but I want everyone to be empowered, to use their social media presence, because we are in tumultuous times where our rights are being taken away, civil rights are being taken away. This monstrous, religious freedom bill may pass on a federal level. And we need to be prepared to act quickly and massively and be a little bit more unpredictable than we've been. So PIP has three tiers. That's building electoral power for the left,
Right.
Movement building, and independent media. Because without one of those, we will fail. As long as most of America is watching MSM News, they don't get the truth, which hurts the movement building, which hurts the electoral power. So we need to kind of work on all three together. So
Absolutely.
That's what we do.
Absolutely, and that's why we're proud to be partnering with you, particularly with the No More War movement. And you have a very impressive list of people who are partnering with PIP, Activate Now, American Indian Movement, Bernie Sanders Brigade, Disrupt America, Election Justice, Environmental Coffee House, the Equality Coalition, Humanitarian United Movement and Action Network, Lee Camp, the Justice Party. There's so many here. I'm just kind of perusing through it. The Same Progressive, Progressive or Bust, Real Progressive, Revolution Truth, Revolt, Truth Against the Machine. You're really creating a coalition here that is going to be a force to be reckoned with. What are the next moves for PIP, and what can our viewers, our listeners, and our supporters do to further your movement?
Well, we love the question. We ask that everyone support all of our partners. Like I say, when one of us has a win, we all have a win. So first, we're not infighting, we're not competing, we're focused on these movements that we can build together. So please go to progressiveindependentparty.org, sign up to get our newsletters, follow us on social media, because what we do when we call upon an action, we will get it out to all of our coalition members to help us push it, and then we will promote the events that are created around the country, coast to coast, on our PIP page. We'll be adding those so that everyone can find an action near them. What we're asking people is to begin to get comfortable in organizing in your local communities. Not everybody is comfortable with that. Yeah. And there may come a time where many people that are not comfortable standing up and getting out in the streets will need to stand up and get out in the street. So these little things build confidence in our movement, so we can build larger, more quicker, less predictable, so we can actually impact change. So I'm talking to the common person when we call upon these no war actions. I'm asking folks to, make a little Facebook event. Give it to us so we can help you share it. Get out there with a few of your friends with a couple signs at the courthouse, and just feel comfortable, be proud of it. Meet people in your community, because in the end, if we have any sort of emergency in this country, what's going to keep us successful and moving forward and making our voices heard are our connections and coalitions on the local level. So it's kind of a double thing. We're creating a national coalition, but at the same time, we're asking everyday people to get comfortable creating events and going down and making sure your voice is heard. And there's a lot of people not activated yet, and those are the people that we're definitely calling upon and asking all those members of the coalition to ask the same, to get everyday common people out there on the streets, so our movement can continue to build.
Hey, Raquel, I have to, I was getting ready to let you get back to your evening, but you've said something twice that I want to ask you about. You said that we need to be more unpredictable, less predictable. What do you mean by that, and how do you see that benefiting the movement? And give us some examples.
Well, I guess oftentimes I know you have expressed on your show some, a feeling of dire urgency in many times. We are in an atmosphere where it's very unpredictable. Our president is unpredictable, and in my view is that the everyday normal kind of activism that we've been doing is not going to work unless we can, in worst case scenarios, hit the streets in mass critical numbers without depending on any one person or organization to call it. So I don't want it to be dependent on myself or Sane Progressive or League Camp. These have to be able to be called upon by any organization, and we need to be fast. There may come a time where this will be essential to maintaining our constitutional rights. And so that's what I mean by unpredictable. If we begin to lose our rights, our freedom of speech, if protest starts to become illegal, today, a protester from Code Pink, was found guilty for laughing at Jeff Sessions during his confirmation hearing. When those things start to happen, if we don't hit the streets, it will start to become harder and harder and harder to use those rights and express our freedoms. Also, we have militarized police, and they are censoring. We know through No Dapple and North Dakota that they censor activity online, and therefore we need to not just show up in DC. We need to not just show up in LA. We need to pop up all coast to coast, middle, Idaho, Oregon, Indiana, Kentucky. We need to be everywhere, because that's how we're going to get stuff done, is to get the attention of the local and the national media.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Thanks so much for digging in and explaining that a little bit more. I've been speaking with Araquel Bloss. She is founder and executive director of PIP, Progressive Independent Party. You can find her on Twitter at Araquel Bloss, and you can find them at progressiveindependentparty.org. And on Twitter, PIP Unite. We're going to share that in our chat room and everywhere else that we can get the word out. Araquel, thanks so much for joining us today.
Thank you for having me, and I wish you guys continued luck on, elevating your stories and all your great folks.
Thanks so much. I appreciate it. My pleasure. 857-600-0518 if you want to weigh in on the conversation, on the discussion, anything that we've discussed up to this point. This is actually news for me. I did not know that the Code Pink protester was already convicted. I did know that, and it just happened today, so this is relatively breaking news. According to the New York Times, a jury on Wednesday convicted 3 Code Pink activists on charges related to a protest at the confirmation hearing of Jeff Sessions for Attorney General, including a Virginia woman who said all she did was break out into laughter. This is, again, because this is breaking news, I'm reading it from the New York Times. It continues and says each of the 3 protesters face up to 12 months in jail, $2,000 in fines, or both, depending on the outcome of a June 24th sentencing hearing. John, I know we have rules of decorum for Congress, but damn, I mean, we can't get charges against the cops who shot and killed Alton Sterling in Baton Rouge, and we have it on video that he didn't have a gun, but we have not only charged but convicted so quickly. Like, we just found out that they were going to be charged, and now they've been convicted and could face up to a year in prison for laughing at the protests.
Yeah, that's pretty much in line with what everyone feared about the Trump presidency moving towards fascism. I mean, that's just right there.
I mean,
I can't even wrap my head around it, really. I've been thinking about it all day, and I've just been like, okay, so what's next? What's on the horizon? They're not charging cops for murder. They're not charging cops for shooting people. They're not charging people who are willfully polluting. They're not charging bankers for fraud, but a woman laughs in the audience of Jeff Sessions and she gets convicted within a month. Like, are you kidding me?
Within a few days, not even a month.
No, I mean, the action happened during his confirmation.
Well, yeah, okay, from the time until now,
you're right, like a month, and it's like boom, convicted.
So
Does
it's
it say how much
Desiree.
she's going to spend in jail?
Desiree Ferruz, 61, said that she was quote undeterred and she would face the music when they get to that. That's a quote. This is absurd. Like at some point, the Justice Department has discretion as to whether or not they're going to charge these people. And this is one of those times that discretion would have been like, if you have discretion with Wall Street, why the entire hell can you not have discretion with a 61-year-old woman who laughed at this? Caller, you're live on the air. Let's just take the caller because I don't think I have the words for it. What is your name, comment, and or question?
Hey, Bisbee, Bryce, what's going on?
Hey, Bryce, what's going on, man? Thanks for the call.
Okay, so I want to talk to you about the Obama situation. I know that today he donated this money to Chicago. Him and Michelle doing all this stuff in Chicago. And I listened to the radio today here in Philly, and this is Black Political Radio Show, and they were upset that people were complaining about Obama taking the $40,000 speech.
400,000. But yeah.
Yes, sorry. And they were complaining about, why everybody complaining here? Private citizen, you're not the president. We doing all this stuff in Chicago. Why y'all complaining? And somebody called in that was a progressive and explained the progressive position and why that's a problem with him taking the money. Which I totally agree. Like you should not be doing that. Private citizen or not, especially as us progressives, you should not be doing that. I'm happy he's doing the stuff in Chicago, but you shouldn't be taking, that money. And there's a lot of people like Trevor Noah, Shannon Sharp. A lot of people are like, why everybody complaining? Why everybody complaining? And then when progressives explain why, they feel like, well, he's a private citizen, da 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 da. And I know it is. I guess can you speak on that? And also Obama and Michelle doing everything for Chicago.
Yeah. Thanks for the call, man. I was hoping you would ask about talk about the women who were convicted, but to your point on listen, I will not. I only have one complaint about people complaining about Barack Obama taking this money. I only have one complaint. Complaining about it isn't going to change anything whatsoever. It does give. I do not begrudge anyone who's upset because I understand thoroughly why you are upset. But my only complaint is that complaining about it doesn't change anything. But in terms of the broader picture, I agree. I agree with Bryce. I agree with the caller. I agree with you, John, in general about it. It's at a minimum. I would just rather. I want him to just give the money to turn down the speech, just so that we can move on. Just so we don't have to argue about that. Let's pull up some comments here. From all the different chats. We have a couple of chats going on. This is from Keith. He said, this guest is definitely getting it, though. We've become predictable and unpredictable in an unpredictable environment. Actually, before you take it off the screen, let me just for the sake of this clip, put it in context. Keith is talking about the interview that we did with Araquel Bloss from Progressive Independent Party, and she said one of her techniques is to make sure that we're unpredictable. The comment from YouTube is saying that she gets it, because we're living in an unpredictable environment. And I think he's absolutely right. We have to do exactly what she said. We have to be quick, we have to be spontaneous, and we have to be unpredictable, because if not, then our system is 100% designed to absorb any of our protests unless we do something, and I hate this cliche, but it's very true, we have to do something out of the box with our protests.
Yes, absolutely. As we saw in DNC, in Philly, you and I were there, we were covering it, and where did they box everyone? They boxed everyone 1.5 miles away, in permitted space and everywhere else. So the only way you're actually going to make any waves is if you're unpredictable. Yeah, unpredictable, willing to get arrested. If your protest requires, if you get a permit for your protest, it's not really a protest. Like it's a gathering, right? And they designed it to stifle
to limit the scope of your protests, right? You can only go so far. You go any further, you're going to be met with brute force, right? You remember Philly. You remember, like, they sent the stormtroopers. Like, I mean, they came in like the damn Gestapo.
Yeah.
And
jumping
shut
off
it.
the back of that bus and rolling out. And then the one cop who was in charge of the whole thing ran over and told him to get back on the bus because he didn't see a problem. That was like one of the best moments, I thought, of de-escalating the situation from a police officer that I had ever seen in my entire life.
And that was the Philadelphia police chief. I wouldn't put up his name, which was cool, right? It was cool. But like the very next week, something else happened where police an incident of police violence and stuff. But
the other thing is being over in that position automatically. I mean, it took us an hour and a half to walk to that location from where we parked, and then on top of that, we had to buy you different shoes.
I had to buy because I was out there in Timberlands. I was in Philly with Timberlands, thinking, because I've marched in Timberlands, like it's no big deal. But they had us so far from everything that it was a good 3-mile round trip walk just to get to the protest.
Right.
And by the time you got there, your energy is done, and they can control you a lot better.
Right.
So
and on top of that, I mean, like, what news groups came out there? It was only a local Fox channel that I saw, and Jordan, when he came out from TYT, he came out briefly, and that was pretty much it. And the local Fox guy was trying to paint it as if it was a joke.
Yeah, we ran into him at the bar afterwards. Remember that joke?
Yeah.
Anyway,
That was not fun.
we only have a few more minutes because we want to make sure that we're done at 9 o'clock. And make sure that you go over to The Way with Anoa and check out her channel with what she's doing over there. Let's pull up one more comment here, and then we're going to discuss the DNC lawsuit. This is from Joe. He said, Ben, your set is a lot better. Was too dark before. Sidekick is also a nice thing to have. Good chemistry. I put up with John every now and then. I don't know if I could. I don't know if I could do you every night, John.
Probably not.
Because I mean, we argued so bad yesterday. We didn't even want to be in the same studio together.
Oh, well, I don't know about that. I wasn't feeling good, but I thought I really
that
thought
was
you
the
were.
excuse.
I really thought you were mad at me. I thought that was it.
No, man, no. I don't fire people because we have a disagreement. But man, I don't know if we could do this every night. We'd be cussing. You know what would be even worse? Like if you, me, and Max, because you're way to the left of Max. Max is just to the right of me. Max is the other producer who's here on a regular basis. Max is more of an institutionalist. He's more of a centrist. Yep. You're further left than I am. I'm stuck in the middle between you two, and I listen and I pull. I'm like in the middle of this dialectic that we have, an ongoing dialectic. You put us all in one room, we probably start throwing shit.
Yeah, well, it's almost gotten to that point. Max has definitely told us to shut up. We need to do work. Quite a few times he did quite a few times. Like we can't, like we have 5 minutes before airtime and you and me are still debating something. Yeah, exactly.
Max is the youngest one and he's the most responsible one on the set.
Yeah, absolutely.
All right, David is close to John. Okay. Anyway, sorry, I'm reading notes out here. Let's talk about the DNC. Switch the screen real quick for me. You're stuck in transition.
Oh,
there we go. All right, let's talk about the DNC because we don't have much time. The DNC lawsuit. One thing I can agree with every progressive that's angry, that the person that we can all agree to hate without any reservation is Debbie Wasserman Schultz. We can all agree there.
That burns like the fire of 1,000 suns.
I mean, she's a mess, and that's the understatement of the century. All right, so the DNC lawsuit, let you start. Why don't you set it up?
So the DNC has basically argued in court of law.
Put the camera on you too, if you want.
All right. So the DNC has basically argued in the court of law that they don't have to abide by neutrality, which is stated inside their charter. They don't have to abide by that. That stands as political speak. Mm-hmm. And political speak has been decided numerous times in the court of law as meaning nothing. It's empty promises. I believe even McCain was sued on this. Mm-hmm. George H.W. Bush was sued on this for no new taxes.
Back in like 88?
Yep, and that was one of the precedents that I think the defense cited. And so basically they said, we have the right to decide this in a smoky back room and you can't do anything about it because the charter is the equivalent of, free speech as well as political speak.
Right. Let's jump. I think that's the best place to jump in, right?
Okay.
We could jump there because that seems to be the line, and you can keep it on split it between us. That seems to be the line that that has pissed a lot of people off.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely.
That line to me makes total sense in the framework of what this party has always been.
Correct. It does for what the party has always been, but it completely ignores what the party actually is as an institution. So
Does it?
Yes, because here's the thing, and this is one of the things Beck was arguing, is that it's more along the lines of fraudulent charity rather than political speak. So the charter is making the assumption that or making the promise to be neutral, and you're soliciting funds based off of that promise. So therefore, it's not free speech. It's the same thing as a charity soliciting funds off of fraudulent claims. So on top of that, they're also running these primaries on state funds, on taxpayer dollars. And if those taxpayer dollars are used towards a fraudulent enterprise, basically a fraudulent primary, then that's also defrauding the taxpayer.
But fraudulent in the sense of if your current charter says X and you don't do X, then you're not being truthful to us, right?
Correct.
And I think that's the core premise of
It's more than just truthful. It's the fact that you are actually soliciting funds using that language and using a specific language of neutrality, which is not just in the charter, but this woman, as well as Donna Brazile and numerous others, were on television throughout the entire primary process.
But do you agree? Do you agree that they can change their charter tonight and be like, well, fuck it, we're not going to be neutral at all?
Correct. But up until this point, their charter was
right, which is why I have absolutely, I support the lawsuit in that framework. But what trips me out is that people are disturbed by the reality that the Democratic Party and any political party could choose who they want. I mean, historically, this is what they've done.
Correct. And that was what the whole problem with 68 was and why there were riots in the street, which is why they changed their charter to reflect this. One of the interesting things you said, though, is that this is the framework within which they've operated since 68, and no one really takes it seriously, which is actually one of the arguments the defense puts forward, is that everyone knows they're crooked, so why do we have to be straight?
Yeah. So what's the problem? Like, why are people... I guess
So
you said it. You said it the other day. Like, I'm in the weeds of every political story, whether I cover it or not.
Yep.
I'm in the weeds of it every single damn day, and so I have to get to a point for my mental health that I don't allow myself to get angry about stuff anymore. So now I'm on this side of my journey. I'm looking at it and I'm like, but folks, this is who the Democratic Party is. Like, they could they could lose this lawsuit, right? They could have to restore and pay people back.
Yep.
They could do all these things, and then the very next day change their charter to say completely F it, we're going to do it the way we want to do it.
Correct.
So in terms of the future, I don't believe that this is about the money, and I think this is more about this is an organization that is not living up to the promises that they made, and so let's put this out. Let's have this lawsuit so that we can make this public, right? I think it's about exposing the DNC for who they really are. Right. On the basis of that, I'm behind the lawsuit 100%. I don't think it's really about money. And as people are saying, it's about money. It's not about money. It's a principle thing. I get the principle thing. But once you make the principle and you win, right? You win and you make the statement. Then what?
Well, then at the same time, and again, I think you're a little bit skewed on this. And
I'm jaded. I'm jaded.
Well, it's not just jaded. I think you're skewed because of what you just said. You're in the weeds of every political thing. You're on Twitter all day. You're following what's going on, and so am I. We are not normies.
Yeah, I get it. I don't agree.
So this lawsuit comes...
Well, I'm not sure about the political connotations of normies. So if that's like improper, somebody let us know. Yeah.
Okay. Well, I apologize if it is. But we're not the average American who's not really paying, and the average voter who's not really paying attention to the same things that we are. I mean, I have very, I would say, politically active and politically cognizant people in my life who still aren't to the level that you and I are. Yeah. So they don't really know anything about this lawsuit.
And which is why I'm 100% for the lawsuit in the context of let's expose the DNC.
Right. And that's exactly what this will do to that group of people, to the majority of Americans who have
no idea that this is going on.
Correct.
Right. Absolutely.
Who think that the primary was fair and square and straight and narrow and didn't read any of the WikiLeaks emails and didn't read any of the other things.
And again, it's like, it's almost like, and again, I have to, thank you for reminding me, right? I can't imbue my understanding of the system on every person out there. But once you get to the point where and not to say that I'm smarter than everyone else, it's just that this is this is American politics.
Yeah.
This is international politics, but we can focus on America. This is what political parties do.
Yes.
And but more importantly than that, once we expose, and again, before I go any further, I want you to go to progressivearmy.com and check out the article, 7 jaw-dropping revelations from the hearings on the motion to dismiss the DNC fraud lawsuit. It's wordy, but just go to the website. It's an article that's up now, and it's got a whole lot of shares. A lot of people are reading this by Zach Haller. Make sure you go
Shout
there.
out to Zach. He did an amazing job, not only with this article, but also with tweeting out all weekend the stuff from Jam Pack, the actual transcripts.
I loosely follow Zach. I can't do the outrage all day long. Zach's
pissed.
He's outraged all day long, and I get it. I'm not knocking him.
Hey,
but I will
too.
say
You
this.
know.
I would say this. This is one hell of a written article.
Yes,
He
it
wrote the
is.
hell out of this damn article. I was reading it. I'm like, oh, why are people mad about this? And I'm like, oh, this is a good man. He wrote the shit out of this. Oh, this is well written, right?
Mm-hmm.
So even though I'm like, what the hell are people upset about? I don't think people should be upset about stuff that they know is going to happen. I think
That's
you
what
should
the
be
defense is
mobilized to change it, right? And I think that we're expending a lot of energy on one side of the equation when we need to have that same amount. We need to have that much energy and more to change it. Because, I could be very specific here, not any generalities. Once they win this lawsuit and the world becomes aware of what the DNC is, the DNC can change and become whoever they want to be because they can write their own charter.
Yes.
What are the progressives going to do at that point? They're going to be either still left out in the cold without access to a major political party, or they're going to have to use that same energy that they had being angry and organize.
Correct. And you just talked to someone who's doing that organization in the background. You have DSA. You have others who are already starting to do that organization. If you can bring them under an umbrella group outside of the Democratic Party that actually is a big tent party and not just a big tent rhetorically and corporate otherwise, then you will have made progress. And I
But
think
you know what PIP can use? You know what PIP needs?
Money.
You know what DSA needs?
Money.
You know what all these organizations needs?
Money.
Not just money, but this energy. This rage to be focused into action. I guarantee you every person who's leading an organization could benefit so much from the energy that's being used for this lawsuit. And not just the lawsuit. I'm not saying anything bad about the lawsuit. I actually agree with the lawsuit. People need to know this is what it is, right?
Yeah.
No questions asked, right? I don't think it's a frivolous lawsuit. I don't think it's about the money. And I think this article that Zach wrote, even though I cannot handle how angry he is all the damn time, I think it is a brilliant article, and I think it's so well written. I'm just thoroughly impressed with it. But at the same time, we need that energy. They need that energy at DSA. They need that energy at PIP. I mean, they need this to be translated from being just outrage into action.
Well, I think that most of the people who are outraged are taking action, like Zach is getting the message out there. And Zach is outraged and furious. And so am I. I mean, that's why I started talking politics. That's why I was forced onto Twitter against my will. And that's why I'm here right now, is because of my anger and outrage.
We only have 60 seconds left.
All right, so what I was saying is
finish it up.
that all of these people are in the vanguard. When you build a movement behind them, you'll see that vanguard being turned towards a direction like you're talking about. Because all of these people that we're talking about, especially Zach and yourself, others, have tried to channel that rage into a constructive faction.
I can't see that right now. I'm going to be honest with you. What you said sounds good.
Okay.
I want to believe it. What I see right now are a lot of people who are angry. I'm not knocking your anger, but I see us being more angry than we are being active. And I know for a fact that these organizations could use this energy for activism, for let's get active. We're out of time. I can't even finish that thought. See you later, folks. Go over to The Way with Anoa. Check her out. She's broadcasting now. We'll see you next time. F8.
The Benjamin Dixon Show is only possible with listener support. Go to www.thebenjamindixonshow.com to register for our blog, join the Progressive Army, and support The Benjamin Dixon Show. It's Ben Dixon! If you like this episode, be sure to share, like, and subscribe.
Consider becoming a Patreon. Go to www.patreon.com/The BPD Show and support The Benjamin Dixon Show.